Billy, there's some slander going around, and frankly, I'm tired of it.
There's a lot.
I know you are too. We've been seeing a lot of it. And if you're a Red Wings fan, I'm sure you're seeing it too. Seeing a lot of people say some pretty not great things about DeBrincat.
Unjustified.
Unjustified. Plenty of, we'll just call them not Red Wings fans. We won't specify any teams, but they're coming around.
Of an emotional involvement in the recent deal.
It does seem safe to say that they are emotionally involved, and they do care to a degree about this player. And it seems like they're doing a little bit of a tour of tearing him down and tearing down his value. So we are here today to tackle some of the very common misconceptions and the common attacks that we see about DeBrincat. And next time you have someone not a Wings fan taking some shots, you'll have a little extra ammo. And we're going to kick it off with what's in the thumbnail: plus minus. How important exactly is plus minus, Billy?
Oh man, it's got to just be the most influential stat that determines every player's contract value, how valuable they are to the entire league. It has absolutely no correlation to the quality of team that you're playing for, and it's a pure individual stat.
Yeah, all good players probably have a positive, and all bad players probably have a negative one, right? Why don't we take a look at some of these really bad players that we have in front of us here?
Yeah. So we can take a look at 7 of those players that scored 20 or more goals and had a 10 negative or worse plus minus during the season. And as you can see, there are some really big names. You have the literal Norris winner at minus 26. Granted, he did so well offensively, but that just shows you that the minus 26 doesn't mean that much when it's compared to everything else, right? You have Jordan Kyrou, a staple of the Blues moving forward, like their star player. High hopes for him. All thumbs up. Drake Batherson, another promising younger player, minus 35. Johnny Gaudreau, an established, just signed $9.5 million, like can absolutely provide offense on a bad team in Columbus. Things didn't go well, minus 33. Trevor Zegras, the young star of the league, high skill, high excitement player,
future face of the league, the cover of NHL, minus 24.
Older candidate. And then you had the most sought after, every team was talking about wanting to trade for this guy to make a push, is Timo Meier, who finished at a minus 19.
That's crazy. But I thought we said plus minus meant that you were a good player if you had a positive, and a bad player if it was a minus.
Yeah, and we can also just look at like the top 3 plus minus in the league were 3 Boston defensemen. It spoke to how good of a team they had. If you're in this conversation of holding this value of plus minus so high, why weren't they like the Norris finalists? Why weren't they winning it?
Act aside, you don't have to look far. You don't have to dig deep to see how unimportant this stat is. This stat is right there with wins for pitchers in baseball, of being such, it's not even remotely an individual stat.
Can I point one other thing out real quick, just on like how it's more of like a team-based stat, in that there were 34 players that met this criteria that we listed down below. I just cherry picked 7 players in different spots, right? Out of them, 4 players made the playoffs. That's Sam Reinhart, Jaden Schwartz, Kyle Connor, and Mark Scheifele. 4 of them. 4 others got traded from non-playoff teams to a playoff team in Niederreiter, Domi, Meier, and Kane. Of those 4 traded, Niederreiter and Domi still had minus records with their new team. Timo Meier just went even, and Patrick Kane had a positive plus minus. This stat doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It actually doesn't.
It just tells you what the standings already do. So I'm glad that we just got a more complicated stat that you can throw out into the world that just says play it on a bad team.
If anything, if and this is me really trying to find a use for this stat, if anything, it shows maybe where you stand on your team compared to teammates, because at that point, at least you're making a fair comparison, and you're seeing how you compare to other players in the same environment, playing with the same players, playing with the same quality team. Comparing 2 players plus minus on separate teams, you actually can't justify it. You actually can't point and be like, well, that makes him a better player. You can literally rack up the best plus minus in the league and not get a single point. It just means you were on the ice or you weren't. That's all it means. I don't want to spend too much time on this one, because it really is actually a pointless stat. It's a fun stat to point at if it's good, and if you're just looking for a cherry on top, it's like, oh yeah, and he's always out there when we score. But to use that as he's a minus 30 something, yeah, good luck with that. Your team was bad.
Yep. Small devil's advocate in this scenario is that, DeBrincat's defensive like abilities and like his performance defensively, if you just watch him play, you're right, it's not very strong. Even he on a local radio station this morning had an interview and said, yeah, that's something that I want to get better at. Yeah, it's a weak part of my game. I felt like in my first year in Chicago, it was fine. The second year, it got better. In my third year in Ottawa, it got worse. And I want to grow that part of the game. And guess what? You're coming to a great system to do it. If you look at the Detroit forwards that we have developed, Rasmussen, Larkin are going to be my top two just to point at. They are incredibly defensively sound now. We needed goal scoring, and we went out and we got the goal scorer. So this guy fits what we need 100%. I'm not concerned too much about him not being able to play defense when we need him to just put in 35 goals.
He's not getting paid to play defense.
Yeah, we have an entire forward line or center lineup of defensively sound players. I'm comfortable and very happy to have him. I'm not going to let, he doesn't play defense that well, and then get into a system at the age of 25, about to enter into his prime, him recognizing it's something he wants to get better at. It's not a bad thing whatsoever. It's just not.
We'll let that take us into, which it kind of correlates, because the plus minus has a lot to do with your team and who you have around you. Another big thing that people are saying about DeBrincat is that he's not going to replicate his stats, specifically his goal line, because he won't be playing with Patrick Kane. And Patrick Kane was supposedly the only reason he was able to put up the numbers that he did. Do you agree or disagree with that? And why do you disagree?
I think Patrick Kane makes everyone around him better, and that is a sign of a great player, is the ability to do that. I think it is the year, and it is time in Larkin's career to be able to do that. If you're a Detroit fan and you are confident in this team moving forward, you should be comfortable with Larkin getting a true scoring winger like he was paired with Raymond, and what he was able to do with Bertuzzi, who, let's face it, guys, not a great goal scorer, hard-nosed player, great depth, can find ways to put the puck in the net. He is not an Alex DeBrincat caliber scorer. There's a reason Steve paid him and not Bert. This entire, like, you're only good because of this player, is it called a strawman argument when you can start to just point around the league or like other situations and say, yeah, you put two good players together, they perform well together. A point that I'm going to point out is just McDavid and Draisaitl in 22 and 23. Draisaitl had 52 goals. 21 of them were assisted by McDavid. Is anyone coming out and saying that, Draisaitl is nothing without McDavid?
Vast majority, everybody looks at Draisaitl and goes, great scorer, great player. We'd love to have him.
Yep, absolutely. Every single team at his contract, every single team would take Draisaitl, and they wouldn't ask two questions about it. They would trade for him. They'd pay the price. They'd take the contract and be like, we have a 50 goal scorer on our team. That's absolutely wonderful. And then in the playoffs, 6 out of the 13, almost 50% of the goals that Draisaitl scored in the playoffs, when you want the scoring, assisted from McDavid primarily.
By the way, I want to also be clear, because I think this is important for this stat. And you're using the numbers that I read you earlier, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I only gave you primary assists.
Yep.
There are more goals that were set up secondary by McDavid as well. So when you're thinking like, oh, that's not that much because McDavid could have just touched the puck and passed someone. No. These numbers are every time McDavid was the last one to touch the puck and fed it to Draisaitl. So don't even bother trying to cherry pick that.
I might go off a little hard here, and this is no disrespect to these players. This is just speaking up Larkin. Shane Pinto was the center and often line mate of Alex DeBrincat. If you give him Larkin, it's an upgrade to Pinto. He wasn't playing with Stützle. It's not like he was playing with Tkachuk. He wasn't playing with Giroux all that often. They definitely were on the ice together. I'm not saying they weren't. But when you look at their lineups every week, that's who he was paired up with. So he's getting an upgrade. Is Larkin Patrick Kane? No. Patrick Kane is very, very, very good at what he does. But to just say that, like, he's not going to be able to replicate anything and he's going to perform the same way because he played with Pinto versus Larkin, I think that's incredibly disrespectful.
I'm sure some of Patrick Kane's assists and some of the plays that were made are Patrick Kane level plays. I'm sure some of these are very hard to replicate. You and I watched not very long ago just to make sure, because again, we don't want to talk out of our asses here. We looked at every single goal Alex DeBrincat was scoring with Patrick Kane. We watched them all. And there are some where you go, Patrick Kane really pulled something out of it. That was pretty sick. A lot of them are just solid professional level passes. And if you're a Red Wings fan, if you don't believe Dylan Larkin can make some of these passes, here, I invite you. You know what? We're about 10 minutes or so in. This is the moment where I'm going to invite, by the way, if anybody wants to tell us what you think so far, maybe about some of these, maybe if you have something else, some other points that you want to make to help the argument or counter the argument, go down to the comments. You can see in all our previous videos, we respond to just about every single comment as long as it's not toxic. We love having this conversation. So I'll give you guys, if you feel like it, a little bit of homework. Just Google Alex DeBrincat every goal. It would have been 2021, 2022, the 40 goals with Patrick Kane. Just watch. If you want to feel some comfort, watch those goals. Watch the ones assisted by Patrick Kane. Ask yourself if you think Dylan Larkin can make those plays. I really, really think you'll see our point that Patrick Kane wasn't out here doing, screw it, I'll give it Datsuki and Deeks and setting up spontaneous, amazing goals all year for DeBrincat. There were some fancy ones, sure. There were some hard to do ones, sure. Some of the good ones I even think Larkin can pull off. Larkin got a lot of assists last year. I don't have the number right in front of me, but he was absolutely building up to be a playmaker. It was something exactly what DeBrincat could use. I think I'm 100% with you. Dylan Larkin could be that guy to feed DeBrincat. They could work really well together. I think it's going to catch everyone by surprise.
And just to speak to last year's performance for DeBrincat, which at 27 goals is good. In the NHL, 27 goals is good. Hitting 30 is good. 40 is really, really good. 50 is your elite, right? But to speak on like who he was playing with a little bit, it sucks that Josh Norris, an incredibly promising young player for the Senators, got injured. It sucks that he was not able to play with him and see what those two could have done together. So I'm really gonna hammer down on like the playing with the Pinto versus Larkin versus Norris, and even potentially for Red Wings fans, we've brought his name up a lot. I would be so interested to see if Bergeron can find his way, be the like another playmaker up on that top line. I think he has the offensive talent. Maybe he's not ready this year to make that huge jump from like a third line to a first line, but if he is able to find DeBrincat, this is going to be speaking real early and probably a little out of pocket. Could have Kane level vision and passing. I'm not saying the hands, I'm not saying the shooting, I'm not saying the overall talent of Patrick Kane, but pure vision and offensive IQ, I see it in Bergeron. I just do. It could develop into that.
If you haven't watched a lot of Patrick Kane, so we'll make it even easier. And again, we're not saying we believe Bergeron is going to be an ex-Datsuk or Patrick Kane. There's probably zero chance of that because of how rare those players are. But those of you who are used to watching a lot of Datsuk, something you probably remember when you were watching a lot of Datsuk is his ability to slow down the play. If you go back, maybe we could put something on the screen. The YouTube channel A Wood, I want to say, is who put together a really good video of every great play that Bergeron had last season.
Yes.
And you'll notice a lot of them. Some of the highlights in there, he doesn't score. He doesn't even get an assist. It's him finding moments where he really looks like he is developing into a star player, potentially a star playmaker. Because if you remember watching Datsuk a lot, you would see him enter the zone and just slow the game down, slow it down to his pace. And he found his opening. That's what we've been seeing with Bergeron. Again, not saying he's going to do it to that level, but it's the mentality that he's having when he's entering the zone. It's that he's not looking for his first option that looks decent and going for it. If he feels like he can create space and create time, he is slowing the play down, letting his line mates enter the zone. And that could be exactly what would form perfectly with DeBrincat in maybe a season or two. We've got him for 4 years. It's not unreasonable to say it's going to be Larkin and DeBrincat this upcoming year, and it's going to go great. But then who knows? Who knows what Bergeron can break out into? And the following year, you could see something really scary around the league with Bergeron feeding DeBrincat. These are high hopes. This is long term. We're hockey fans and we're Wings fans. So if there's players that you're going to be excited about, this is 100% one of them. I don't want to make this a Bergeron video, but I think Yzerman sees this and recognizes that having DeBrincat on the team for the next 4 years, when some of these guys are going to hit their stride, it might not be scary this year. It might just be kind of fun to watch. This could be scary in 2 seasons. Deadly, especially in power play situations.
Yes, that is.
Speaking of power play situations, I feel like another common thing I hear about DeBrincat is that he's just a power play scorer. What do you think of that?
I think it's mildly justified for what he did last year. His pure just power play goal percentage out of his total goals was almost 41%. And just looking at this list that we provided you guys down below, you can see that that's relatively high in comparison to a lot of these other names on the list. And you'll see some outliers of some really low ones like Pedersen, Aho, Jack Hughes are all below 21%. Those are excellent, like even strength scores. But then you also have someone like Tage Thompson, who the NHL is super excited about. Buffalo has every right to be so excited about this player. Up at 42.6. Kaprizov, 42.5. Meyer, we just talked about Meyer on the other side, 42.5. Like these percents are up there. But if you look at DeBrincat's career stats, it's 32.5. So he had a different role in Chicago than he did in Ottawa. He was playing top line with Patrick Kane. Chicago, he was playing second line with Shane Pinto on the top power play line. And again, we told you to go watch some of his goals. Guys, his release is insane. Like, it's not the Ovechkin level, just let him hover there and do whatever. That shot, how quick he gets it off on every single one of his goals. I don't think I remember a single one where it was like a catch, hold, look, shoot. Every single one is puck on stick, puck at net. Don't give that goalie any opportunity to read that. And the Red Wings need it. Like, we have Perron over there, but Perron's different. Perron is kind of the slow it down, catch it, then rip it. So if you can bring that one-time option for like a sider on that side, I'm not sure who we would put on the right side yet. Losing Kubalik does kind of suck for that. He was good in that spot for us. So I'm excited to see who could move up into it. Yeah, getting that shot over there is really, really nice.
We'll even take the devil's advocate route, because it's going to play right back into the point we're trying to make. Let's say he is a power play specialist. Yep. Let's just say that's where most of his goals are going to come from, or a good chunk are going to be coming from. We looked at the stats. Turns out, guys, scoring on the power play is pretty key to making the playoffs. If you look on the right side of the graphic that we've had on the screen, those are your top power play percentages in the league. All those teams with a star next to it were playoff teams. And most of the teams that don't have a star next to them were competing for a playoff spot in the last 2 weeks of the season.
Yep.
Again, we didn't just plug the Red Wings in there just because. No, the Red Wings were already kind of up there. Adding DeBrincat, so even if you want to say that it's just going to be good for the power play, let's not act like investing in your power play isn't relevant, because teams that score when they have more players on the ice than the other team, go figure, are typically more successful at finding a playoff spot. It's insane how many of those teams, and we only left like one or two off the list, and that's only because it wouldn't fit on the graphic.
Yep.
Almost all of those top power play teams all those top power play teams are either comfortably in the playoff, and then I think it was I think only maybe two of the teams weren't really in the conversation. That's more speaks to what their conference was about. Can you help hammer home that the power play is actually worth investing in? And even if your worst case scenario, DeBrincat is your power play specialist, that's still a important part of your team. You're not investing in something that's a weight.
We're gonna bring his name up again. Draisaitl. 61.5% of his goals on the power play. 61.5. It is by far the highest outlier of these top goal scorers. We said before, I'll just say it again. Everyone would take him. Everyone would take him without question. And no one...
I've never heard someone say Draisaitl is just a power play specialist.
Yeah, and like, because he can prove that he does so much more, but he excels there. Oilers make the playoffs. And this is the other little thing. For the people who watch hockey and you listen to those interviews and you just hear what players are saying or what coaches are saying, they always hammer home special teams. That is when you can lose games. That's when you can win games. Being great 5-on-5 is fantastic. If you look, like, the Bruins didn't have a spectacular power play across the rest of the league, and they had the best season ever. Oh, props to them. They had a great 5-on-5 game.
I'm glad you said that. And this wasn't on our notes, but this is something I've been thinking about. We've been talking about this. I think it is widely agreed that officiating in hockey is different when you get to the playoffs.
Yes.
More things get let go.
Oh, yes.
There are less calls. There are less opportunities for these power play goals. That power play goal, if you're only getting 1-2 power plays that game, that could absolutely, you might not be getting 5 chances like you were the month prior.
Yep.
You might get 1 shot, 2 shot. They put the whistles away in the playoffs most of the time. Having a high percentage really, really could be the difference between winning a playoff game and not. I think it's more undervalued than it should be. Do you have anything else you want to say on the power plays, or do you want to move?
I'm okay with that. I think we hit that pretty strong.
The last part that was, I'll be totally honest, kind of a last minute addition to this video. And it was because we kind of just stumbled on the information, did a little bit of digging. And I think as a Red Wings fan, if you're looking for one more thing to get you kind of excited, I think this is it. One of the best abilities in hockey, sports in general, is availability. If there is any player that we could have acquired that has availability, as in doesn't get injured, doesn't miss hockey games, it's Alex DeBrincat. His first season in the league, he played 82 out of 82 games. His second season went into the COVID year, and the season got cut short. The Chicago Blackhawks played 70 games that year. So did Alex DeBrincat. The following season was also cut short due to COVID. They only played 56 games that year, but Alex DeBrincat only played in 52. Was he injured? No. He was kept sidelined just for COVID protocols, just to make sure there wasn't going to be an outbreak. He missed 2 weeks in the COVID season, not due to injury, but just due to COVID protocol. So still no injuries yet. The following season, 21-22, he played 82 out of 82 games. And I think you know what the answer is going to be for how many games did he play in Ottawa. He played all 82 games for Ottawa. The man in 5 seasons has not missed a single hockey game due to injury. And for everyone making the comments that he's small, he's undersized, he's not going to be able to hold his own, he's going to get beat up on. He hasn't gotten injured once, and he certainly isn't scared. He was top 8. He was 8th on the Ottawa Senators last year in total hits with 109. He's throwing the body around. He's playing the corners, and he's still not finding himself getting injured. I didn't know all this until right before we started making this video. I'm very excited about that. Having a player that you can count on to be there, and he's not playing scared, it's fantastic. It's beautiful. I saw you did a little bit of calculations there where you
I wanted to
see how many games he's played.
A true percentage. It's literally 99%.
He has literally played in 99% of his games, and the only 1% that he missed was from the COVID protocols, which more than likely completely out of his hands. Nothing, nothing you can do there.
Yep, and he's been hitting more and more as he's gotten, deeper into his NHL career. And Red Wings, this should be very valuable to you. I'm going to mention a name, and you tell me how many times you saw him play a game in a Red Wings sweater and how promising he always looks when he is. It's Robbie Fabry. Always seems like when he's playing for us, things are going well, but it feels like every single season it's gonna miss 40 games, gonna miss half a season due to X, Y, or Z. We're not getting this out of this guy so far. That's not to say he's, invincible or anything like that, but this is a very, very good track record that should provide you with a lot of confidence that he's durable. He plays hard. There's everything you want in a player in that.
If you guys can think of anything else to get excited about, I'm cool with the comment section turning into a what do you like about Alex DeBrincat section. But let's just talk about DeBrincat in the comments. If you've got something that you like about him, you want to bring up, maybe we missed it, maybe there's an extra thing that you found somewhere, maybe you can tell us where we could see it, maybe there's a really cool play you saw, put it in the comments. But if you enjoyed this, please hit the subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Hope you see you in the next one. We're going to be talking a lot of Red Wings. We're going to be keeping up with this team a lot because I think this team is going to turn some heads this year. So appreciate your time. Till the next one. We'll see you guys.
Bring it for 35. Hammer it.